Hi, your friendly neighborhood BS on Blast here to give you your recap for day 18 post-military coup in Sudan on this Thursday, November 11th. If you missed yesterday's recap, it's available on the page, etc., etc. We are now on day 18 of the internet shutdown that began on October 25th when General Burhan took power by force in a coup of the military styles, and decided, because he's a brat who doesn't like to share and doesn't want anybody else to have a turn at running the country, that things are actually not going well, and so he's going to take over the reins and fix them. The internet, in terms of mobile data services, is completely shut down. Like we talked about all these other days, ADSL is available to a very, very select few. And all of this, despite the fact that two courts now have ruled in favor of restoring internet services. One we talked about a couple of days ago after a lawsuit presented by the Consumer Protection Agency. And today another Khartoum court ruled that, in fact, no, you should be returning services, internet services, to all users, not just the 10 who signed the lawsuit. In response, General Burhan's media advisor said, the courts can't do that. What? The judicial system is just for show. He didn't say that. What he actually said is, they can't make a decision on this because the internet, quote, falls under the purview of the National Defense Council, not the courts. Who knew? They then issued, the military, then issued an order to said telecom companies that were in the lawsuit, and the main ones, really, that are operating in Sudan, the only ones that are operating in Sudan, to not restore the internet. And shortly thereafter, the National Telecom Authority released a statement saying, sorry guys, can't do it. That was before the big news, which is that Al-Burhan finally has announced his cabinet. He's announced that he's forming a new sovereign council of the transitional government, of which naturally he is the head. Mohammed Hamdan Daglo, known as Hemeti, is the vice president. They have other generals that were previously part of the Transitional Sovereign Council, and before that part of the Transitional Military Council, and before that part of the Bashir regime, such as Kabashi and others who are members of this council, and then some technocrats sprinkled in Al Asad Bay. A handful of civilians that they are claiming are technocrats to, fulfill the fantasy, to make the fantasy complete. He had a swearing in ceremony. Yes, he did. That swore himself in as the president, effectively, of the country. Here's the embarrassing part. After he released this, and he released the names of all the people that are allegedly in this cabinet, these same names started to come back with statements and say, no, we didn't agree to that. Nah, I'm not part of this. That ain't me. I never said yes. Nobody asked me nothing. Nobody talked to me. I don't know. So as of yet, no civilians are actually a part of this government that we know about. Well, how that's going to play out remains to be seen. The streets, however, have been very clear. Not vague at all. The streets are out. He announced it, he swore himself in, the thing was aired on national TV, and people took to the streets, rejecting his new government. not giving it any legitimacy, and continuing to call for the November 13 demonstrations that are set to happen on Saturday. Of course, crackdown on protests, and the protest movement has been continuing regardless of this other stuff that's in the background across the country, not just in Khartoum. And the crackdown on those protests has also continued and has also continued to be violent. There's news from Eastern Darfur that 5 political detainees who are civil servants originally, detained by the military, have contracted COVID-19 while in detention. And if that wasn't bad enough, the only hospital that could treat them refuses to treat them because it has orders, allegedly, from the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, not to treat detainees. So medical services, healthcare services are being withheld from these detainees. That's a human rights violation, by the way. That's a crime against humanity, if you don't know. The military intelligence have also reportedly arrested activist and Sudanese Professional Association member, Dr. Naji Al-Lassam. Al-Lassam has recently had a couple of videos circulating online in which he talks about, one, the rejection and the denouncement of this coup, but also he claims that Burhan and Hemeti have made attempts at the life of one of the anti-corruption committee members, and according to his account, that man's cousin died as a result because they basically shot at his car and he wasn't in the car, but his cousin was, and so his cousin died as a result. So I'm guessing that's why he was arrested. The reason for his detention was not mentioned. In other news, a list of now 11 universities, public universities at that, have suspended classes indefinitely because of what's going on in the country. And many of them have come out with statements denouncing the coup and the ways in which students and university staff and campuses have been violated by the military forces. Also in terms of protests, judicial workers in Khartoum came out in protest today against the coup. So these activities are still continuing. And like I said, the call out and promotion for November 13th is still happening. But with Sudan blackout, right, with the lack of internet and with the disrupted telecom services, and which are also possibly being monitored, people are trying to find more innovative ways or creative ways to get around these limitations and to spread the message. One of them has been the thing that we've talked about often for the last week, night protests, in which people actually go out and yell into the streets, hey guys, on November 13th we have this mass nationwide protest, but also little other things that are really cute and also really creative and impressive, like printing mini flyers and tucking them in supermarket shelves, just like putting them on top of products and stuff. So when you go shopping, you find your little flyer and you say, November 13th, mass protest, I'll be there. I thought that was quite impressive. Maybe it's not impressive to you, but it's impressive to me. Another impressive thing that people have been doing has been to put out these call outs for the November 13th protests in indigenous languages. Let me tell you why that's impressive. We have lived in Sudan under a 30, 40, 50 year system in which this diversity has been vilified, has been dismissed, has been erased, really. The word is erased, because we've been trying to push this narrative that Sudan is an Arab country, and so that there's been a push over the last 30 plus years to Arabize Sudan, to destroy and erase indigenous languages and to make Sudanese society Arab culturally, linguistically, etc. So this, people using indigenous languages to call out as a form of resistance, is such a beautiful thing. And as a language nerd, it hits all the right spots. The people are fired up. This is a message to the diaspora, who's been really weepy and whiny lately. The people are fired up. The streets are on fire. And if you go to my story, later, I will share with you some of those literal fires, like tires on fire, and the spiritual fire that is burning inside people. They can't wait for Saturday. Saturday is going to be huge. It's going to be big, and it needs us to be there too, in spirit, out in the world, in these diaspora protests. Right now on the website, sudanku.com, if you have not visited it, has a lot of good information, including a page completely for upcoming protests in the diaspora. And on the 13th, there are at least 30 protests worldwide planned. So مليونية وأي حاجة. Do you see what I'm saying? مليونية وأي كلام. Please, please, please give your people, your families, your friends, your acquaintances, anybody Sudani, give them a push of motivation. Saturday is going to be big. I can feel it in my bones. Saturday is going to be huge. And that's a scary thought, but it's also a really hopeful one.